Hello, crew. I'm Captain Foley.
And I am Commander Cockings. Welcome back, everyone.
And today we'll be taking an in-depth look at one of the most iconic ships in Star Trek history, the legendary Klingon Bird-of-Prey, as first seen in Star Trek III, The Search for Spock.
And then, in TNG, Star Trek 4, 5, and 6, and of course, widely used in Deep Space Nine.
But none in Voyager, except maybe, of course, the little one hanging on the mobile that Tom and B'Elanna were going to have over their baby's crib.
That's pretty cute. Yeah, it's a nice little detail. That is right. Yeah. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, you've watched almost everything we've had to say about the Bird-of-Prey. Wait a minute, you've done this already. The truth is we have, but that was way back. Episode 5. We're at 300 now. Yeah, 5. And it was our first Legends episode with extended a lot of detailed information. But
since then, we have grown by about 30,000 subscribers or so. And they might not have gone back to watch all of our older stuff. And let's be honest, we've had a lot more practice now. We have more skills. And now we have the ability to add totally new and much better renders and animations by Samuel, based on actual 3D models used in the show.
Yep.
So let's revisit the iconic Klingon Bird-of-Prey. Should be said too here that this is the original script. We're going to tweak a few things in it and make it a little bit better for you guys, but yeah, it might have a different feel from what you're used to.
And it's kind of, well, yes, and it's kind of fun if you go back and watch like the first 5 minutes of the old one and then jump back to this one. It's like, boom, they're on fire. So let's get started by telling you there are several Bird-of-Prey designs which we're taking a look at today. And more than I think either of us knew existed in fact. We have the smallest little fighter, the Kapach, the D12 Burrell class, and the Kavort class. And the excessively large Datai class. The early 22nd century version of Bird-of-Prey from Enterprise and the 23rd century version, the rebooted Bird-of-Prey, as it were, from Star Trek Discovery, and a few non-canon types such as the L-22 Bird-of-Prey, the L-42 Great Bird, and the D-32 type Stronger Bird.
The Bird-of-Prey has been part of the heart of the Klingon Defense Force for centuries. Small fighters with the same basic layout have been used ever since the first planetary conflicts began. Klingons have not changed the basic design in centuries, except for during Discovery era, because they feel no need to change what they fundamentally believe to be correct, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of mentality. But we're going to talk about that specific Bird-of-Prey later, I think.
And obviously the real world reason is they had a sexy miniature. Let's just keep using it. Yeah. The Bird-of-Prey is the most versatile warship employed by the Empire, serving a wide variety of mission roles, including raider, patrol ship, and even cruiser.
Originally conceived as a Romulan ship, the original screenplay for Star Trek III was to have it be a Romulan ship, stolen by Krug and his men, who were in fact renegades and not representing the Klingon Empire. The design and even the color of the ship looks very Romulan, and they never really changed this, even to reflect the supposed Klingon design changes. Perhaps this design was acquired during their alliance with the Romulans. This Romulan of connection, of course, is later disproved in Enterprise when we see the early Bird-of-Prey, which was long before the Romulan-Klingon alliance of 2267.
A Bird-of-Prey style ship was first encountered in 2153 by the NX-01, captained by Jonathan Archer. However, James T. Kirk was the first Federation captain. Slight distinction there, but it's important. To see and then capture a Bird-of-Prey in the year 2285, while the first Cardassian Bird-of-Prey was captured by Gul Dukat in 2372.
By the late 2370s, the classic Bird-of-Prey design was almost 100 years old, but with constant upgrades and retrofits still very much in service and used in nearly every battle of the Dominion War.
Must have had hundreds of them.
Thousands, probably.
They got just ripped through. Much more agile than the bigger and bulkier Katinga or Vorchar-class cruisers, these Bird-of-Preys were often flown in formations of 3 or more, like modern-day fighter jets.
Standard weapons included 2 forward-firing wing-mounted disruptor cannons, 2 photon torpedo launchers, one mounted forward and the other to the rear somewhere. By the 24th century, at least one ship of the class was armed with phasers rather than disruptors and possessed a weapons range that exceeded 40,000 kilometers.
During the 2280s, the Burrell class was said to be outgunned 10-1 by a Constitution-class refit.
By TNG, most ships have wings in the fixed upward position indicating that the majority of these ships were the larger Cavort-class ships, said to have at least double the firepower of the smaller Burrell-class ships.
Later, the Bird of Prey proved very effective against Jem'Hadar fighters, as both are very maneuverable, performing dogfight-type maneuvers.
One weakness of early designs was the fact that while cloaked, the ship could not communicate with other ships, use transporters, or fire weapons. The issue with communications and transporters was quickly addressed, however, making its only limitation the weapon's firing capability.
The most vulnerable spot was located on the ship's underside, right between the wings. Also, the ship's targeting systems could be easily fooled, so a couple of distinct weaknesses.
Cloaking systems left an energy surge that could be picked up on close-range sensors as a distortion. This also resulted in a visual distortion as well.
And there was just about a 2-second window of vulnerability from the time of engaging or disengaging cloak, and then raising or dropping of the shields.
On average, the Burrell-class Bird of Prey had a crew complement that varied from a dozen up to a crew of 36. A skeleton crew of 6 men could operate and even take one into battle and be successful should the need arise.
There was very little room, as these were military craft with no frills, except bloodwine storage, dedicated cupboards, just bog standard,
And a targ pit.
Yes. These were described by Jadzia Dax as being cramped and uncomfortable. These vessels were just as Klingons liked it.
Due to the ship's age, there was a wide variety of bridge configurations, usually customized by the ship's captain.
And each was a special order by a particular Klingon house. These ships were a status symbol for any house. The bigger or more numerous the ships in a particular house of the Empire, the more revered and feared they were.
Payment for a new ship was made at the Kronos orbital factory base. Then personal bridge layout, weapon selection, internal configuration, etc., were incorporated into whichever size class the client had paid for.
All ship systems worked in pairs or multiples of integrated systems as redundancies, so systems rarely fail. For this very reason, most variants have 2 warp cores and a twin warp core configuration.
The cloaking system works by generating a quantum phase bubble around the ship that instantly teleports EM radiation to the other side of the cloaked area, hence making the ship invisible.
Wing disruptors tapped into plasma from the engines to produce disruptor bolts that could cause impressive damage for ships of this size.
Photon launchers could also launch probes, as well as antimatter mines.
And the wing cannons can be fired when horizontal or in the upward landing configuration, but the yield is much weaker. Most effective and powerful when fired in the downward or attack configuration on the Burrell class. The Cavort, however, did not have this limitation.
Photon torpedoes, or just torpedoes in general, are the only weapons that can be fired at warp, as disruptors cannot normally travel faster than light.
Although certain Burrell scout versions are not equipped with a torpedo launcher, but instead are outfitted with tight beam long-range sensor dish.
The standard torpedoes carried on board a Bird of Prey are referred to as Talon strikes. The second type of torpedo is called Morath's Fist, and was originally designed and deployed aboard Vorcha-class attack cruisers. These have also been resized to fit the Burrell class. These are overloaded with antimatter for maximum punch. And finally, the antimatter mines they carry are called Eagle's Claw and can be launched from a torpedo tube and can be configured for a wide variety of ranges.
A bronze-colored cloaking emitter ring runs around the perimeter of the bridge module, and if someone were to fire a weapon while cloaked, any beam or projectile weapon would interact with the cloaking field in unpredictable ways, from disappearing and rematerializing thousands of kilometers away to dimensionally smearing within the envelope of the quantum bubble only to exist back inside and strike the ship. So anyone foolish enough to fire while cloaked is almost certain to not hit his target, but in fact destroy his own ship.
That's right. So as a result of this, designers of the Bird of Prey installed a software routine that disables the weapon system while the ship is cloaked to prevent overzealous commanders from destroying their own ships. The red ring around the torpedo tube actually is the ship's main navigational deflector.
And Star Trek Online has a Burrell refit named the Baroth.
So now let's look at specific classes and special ships. And let's start with the 22nd century version from Enterprise, first seen in the Season 2 finale, Expanse.
Its length is 145.36 meters long, width of 137.27 meters, and a height of 66.21 meters. It has a crew of 48 and a maximum speed of warp 6. Weapons included 8 disruptor banks, with having 2 360-degree firing arcs. It also has a fore and aft torpedo launcher somewhere, and a shuttle bay that takes up most of the back. Sometimes.
Yes, and an escape pod.
Sometimes.
Yeah. This is a small raiding and scouting vessel meant to be the maneuverable attack craft when in a fleet, and just happens to be the most armored Klingon vessel of the era, perhaps?
Well, damn
You can see a
impressive.
lot.
Damn impressive for its size.
Yeah, there you go.
Billion guns. Yeah. It is interesting, though, guys, that this ship is in fact bigger and better armed than the Burrell, which we will talk about in a minute. Also the fact that, as mentioned earlier, it eliminated the possibility this ship was initially a Romulan design. Which I'm fine with.
Although, it has all the features of a Romulan ship. Hull color, bird designation, and the design of the feathers on the wings. It just looks very warbirdish. I'm just saying. The faster people will agree with me. That's
And
fine.
canon people agree with me.
That's true.
Let's keep going.
Now, let's talk about the Burrell, which is quite an interesting little ship and by far the most famous bird-of-prey variant. In-canon information has different dimensions for this ship, so it's possible that there are varying sizes even for each particular class, which is unique in and of itself in the Star Trek universe.
But does it explain its changing size 3 times in Star Trek 4?
Yes, it does somehow. It's the TARDIS effect. There's like this TARDIS generator ring that they don't show. It's cloaked all the time. However, other information states that the length can be up to 157.76 meters, with the usual length stating around 110 meters. So, cruising speed of warp 7 with a max speed of warp 8. Standard mission length is 2 years with a recommended yard overhaul after 10 years. Warp unit is a KWC dilithium conversion graph unit and an impulse hydrogen energy integrated impulse drive.
With a crew of 6 to 12, the ship can also hold up to 4 prisoners when
They
they
do more if they stack them on top of each other.
But as we know, guys, Klingons don't take prisoners except when they do. Ooh, it lands. She has 3 decks. Some in-canon information states that the maximum speed can actually be warp 9.8 enough to initiate the slingshot effect. Although how much of that speed is caused by the sun's gravimetric pull is not stated. And to be fair, refits. It's a very old ship, so...
And older warp scales and things.
Yeah, absolutely. Weapons include fore and aft torpedo launchers and 2 wing-mounted disruptor cannons, or in some rare cases, as said earlier, phasers. Deflector shields are the main defensive system, but as all bird-of-prey, is also a cloaking device.
Now, let's quickly take a look at the Cavort class. In-canon evidence states that the Cavort can be anywhere from 360 meters to a whopping 678.36 meters in length. This 678 meter long one is actually had its own ship's designation known as the Tatai class. Now, the refitted Enterprise is 308 meters for reference purposes. In the menu screen for Star Trek V, The Undiscovered Country, Special Edition DVD, it shows that Captain Claw's ship is a D-12 or Cavort class. So my thinking on this is that the movie era, the ships were Constitution cruiser size, but come the Next Generation era, the ship probably must have just been scaled up to look more menacing next to the Galaxy class design. I don't know. But maybe we'll discuss that in more detail at the end. So,
Yeah. Well, to be fair, if Claw thought they could take on the Enterprise, then he wouldn't be in a Burrell. You know?
true.
Let's go through 10 times, that will give us honour, or get blown up. Just saying. So if we believe the 678.36 metres length for the Tatai class, that makes the wingspan of this ship 780.62 metres across and a height of 423.71. That's more than 3 decks, guys, if you were counting. It is stated this ship has a crew of over 1,500, including flight crew and troops, as the ship is usually seen with the wings in the horizontal or slightly upright position in TNG. We must assume that it didn't have an attack position of the small bird of prey, but once again we'll address this issue later.
Most D-12s were retired from service by 2350s because of faulty plasma coils, which were components of the cloaking system. A low-level ionic pulse could be used to activate the ship's cloaking device, and as such could be exploited to disable its shields.
Can you imagine fighting a battle next to an ionic nebula? They'll de-warp and everything just decloaks. They're like, oh crap. Bad place. In an alternate timeline from yesterday's Enterprise, the Cavort was referred to as a battle cruiser and larger than its prime universe counterpart. This could in fact be some of the reasoning for the confusing size, maybe?
Makes sense. They were more menacing. It's different alternate reality, right? So
Yeah.
or timeline. In 2287, Captain Claus D12 was the first bird of prey to breach the Great Barrier. Probably the last one. Probably the only one ever. I don't know.
Well, I'd love to see a Klingon Bird-of-Prey captain go to the other Great Barrier, the Outer Rim Barrier, and get superpowers. That'd be interesting. That'd be a whole story. Okay, it's now time to make our FASA friends happy and look at some of our non-canon Bird-of-Preys. There are 3 that we'll discuss briefly, with the first being the K-22 Bird-of-Prey. This was a Scout-class vessel. Now, there are some variations in these measurements as well, but they are much less exaggerated. And when explained within the FASA material, it actually all makes sense. The variations are dependent upon hull type and launch dates, getting slightly bigger as the years and classes progressed.
Yeah, so we're going to have a few different measurements here. As he said, it's just older to newer versions of the ship getting a little bit bigger. First of all, I just want to point out, this is my little FASA miniature that I've had forever. So.
Cool. It's a Bird-of-Prey.
It is. It's beautiful. The first one we're going to talk about is the K-22 type called the Bird-of-Prey, which is a Scout-class vessel, also known as the Burrell class. It has a length of 88 to 90 meters, width of 130 to 133 meters, and a height of 16 to 19 meters. This vessel also has a crew of about 12 to 15.
Next up is the D-32, named the Stronger Bird, and is also known as the Zagava class. This is a cruiser class ship and has a length of 110 to 130 meters, width of 161 to 165 meters, and a height of 21 to 23 meters, and has a crew of 93 to 148, depending, of course, on launch dates and specific configurations.
And finally, the L-42, deemed the Great Bird. This is a frigate-class vessel with a length of 164 to 166 meters, a width of 242 to 244 meters, and a height of 31 meters, with no variation in this measurement among the different configurations. This ship has a crew of 172 to 240 personnel, and is the only one of the 3 that cannot land on a planet's surface. As a result of this, she only has 2 wing positions, attack and cruising.
Non-canon information tells us that the wing's feathers are individually adjustable to compensate for air turbulence when in atmosphere on the 2 small versions.
Apparently, the cloaking devices on the small K-22 were very unreliable at best and confirmed to be capable of driving crew members mad, although Federation medical specialists do not fully understand the cause of this.
Some later models of the 2 larger of these designs are reported to have Romulan-type plasma torpedo launchers instead of the standard photon torpedo launchers.
And now let's look at a truly unique bird of prey, as seen in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered
Here she
Country.
is, truly unique in her design.
No. Here it is. I've got a few of them. I refer, of course, to General Chang's prototype bird of prey that had the ability to fire while cloaked.
And this, of course, occurred during the first Khitomer conference in 2293. One never stated whether this was a Burrell or Cavort class, and as you can see in the film, they don't get close enough to get a sense of scale, although the bridge is the same, but it's always the same. In the novelization of the film, and this is the official novelization, guys, it states that this ship could not only fire while cloaked, but also raise shields while cloaked. However, Chang, in his arrogance, did not attempt to do so until the very last minute when he realized the torpedo could in fact track them. This ship is also rumored to have an advanced sensor array and additional armor plating. I guess that would be enough to maybe take on an assault in that case. This prototype also solved the problematic energy surge, however, could not mask the neutron radiation or high energy plasma exhaust from the impulse engines.
And I think it's safe to say that additional armor would, deflect any glancing phaser blast, because I'm sure you're only going to get hit by a phaser aiming your direction, so you'll move out of the way, because nobody's going to be able to lock a torpedo on you while you're cloaked, unless they go for the tailpipe.
Or like doing the classic Balance of Terror, firing torpedo spreads that explode near you. If the armor can take that damage totally effectively, then again, maybe then you can then lock torpedoes on the ship that's firing at you, launch a couple, boom, you've destroyed them. So yeah, they learned, I guess.
Yeah, it makes sense that he didn't put his shields up because he's an arrogant guy with extra armor. The ship was actually commissioned a year prior in the year 2292. It is believed that they use an active energized surface material built into the torpedo's housing to compensate for the quantum distortion caused by the cloaking device. However, since the prototype was destroyed without Chang making its technology available to the Klingon Defense Force, it is not 100% clear how these modifications worked, and was never seen again until the Romulans and Remans worked it out for the scimitar that we see in Nemesis.
Next time on Trekyards.
Well,
The rest of this episode.
Yeah, it's pretty normal. Like, you expect this from us now. It's just like next time, next episode, it'll be great. It'll be great. If you're still watching this video, and we're still talking, why? Just watch something else. Watch another Trekyards video.
It's over. It's over. Go home.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.